Yupo Moogles, TheShwantz27 here with another recap. It's week 3 of the Battlegrounds event for the Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide community. Let's check out the map. At the start of the week, the returners control 3 areas in the east, meaning the Eastern Empire territory was available for battle, with Zozo under Empire control returning from the prior week, and newcomers Triangle Island in the east and Jidor in the west. How did it all play out? Well, let's start off with the Battleground holdover from last week, Zozo, and let's go over the settings again. There's a Kefka unlock of 1 more character than normal and setting the randomized Zozo clock, as well as a KT skip of 2 extra characters with a random recruit for this seed being Shadow, who is replaced with the Celeste sprite. Remember, this is the flag set where everything isn't as it seems, with shuffled character palettes, sprites, and names, an equipable setting of shuffle plus 15% random enemy scaling, normalized and distort boss stats, chests may be random encounters 5% of the time, steals and drops being 100% random. Chests are also 100% random, and shops having a 0 sellback price meant that looting and fighting was encouraged, and you'd have to be frugal with your spending. We started with Tools Terra, who is really Vanilla Edgar, and Magitech Setzer, actually Strago, that allowed us to grab Crusader at the Figaro throne, teaching Mute for Tier 2's magic right off the bat. With a 0 GP shop sellback price, looting was the way to go, including 2 Atma weapons, 2 merit awards to get around the shuffle plus 15% equipable setting, 2 Illuminas, and fixed dice. Edgar's sprite was unusually lurking at the Girard spot for the Figaro engine room, along with an EXP egg in a chest. However, waiting on the bed of Castle Pasta was Magi Master. We could use the merit award with fixed dice to get past this hurdle after some equipment jostling, and if you didn't use this strategy, an Esper with the Meteor spell could be obtained from a solo Kefka at Narsh fight, or grabbing a drill which ignores physical defense. With another difficult boss gating our character progression for a Zozo seed, Sketch actually Celeste was recruited, and that experience egg would be put to good use on an Atma weapon user for the endgame. The next character gate was at the Opera House Disruption, where Dance Locke in a Moogle suit joined. X-Magic Cyan cosplaying as Strago was at the South Figaro Cave check. This led to a Sortek Morph Gal masquerading as a Yeti at Mount Zozo, where you should have been also setting the clock for Kefka requirements, but his checks did not lead to new characters. After slogging through a Poltergeist fight, we were happy to see our 7th and final character, Shadow, really go-go at the 2nd spot in Cyan's Dream, with a Vanilla Rexol encounter, which is a pretty late location for some of our runners given the linearity of this seed. Kefka's Tower had a few rough bosses, including Atma at the Guardian spot, which could cause a potential massive time loss, and Doomgaze at the Goddess spot, but using Air Anchor as instant death along with the Illuminous, fixed dice offering, and lots of good spells meant that Kefka itself wasn't an issue outside of casting Life 3 for calmness protection. Returners were able to revert Zozo to a neutral territory after their top 6 times of 144.48, bested the Empire's top 8 times, averaging 147.28. Also available in the West is Jidor, which had a similar Kefka unlock at 7 characters and 9 Espers, but the additional gimmick being to win a auction where there were no Espers, only high-tier items. Kefka Tower Skip required 2 extra characters and performing in the Opera, which is a 4 to 5 minute long cutscene, so the time save here is not that great. However, the possibility of just fighting the gauntlet without having to worry about KT party manipulation is a nice safety. This seed focused on shopping over looting with 2 characters and 50,000 GP to start, with the shop shuffle plus 50% random. However, at a higher price of 125% to 175% and a 1/4 sellback meant that you'd have to spend wisely, as you couldn't just make much back from the random tiered chests. 2 Sketch, 2 GP Rain users were in the seed with no Possessor Shock for the commands. Enemy level HP and MP scaling slightly higher at 2.5 times characters plus Espers plus Dragons, and a slightly better equipable pool at 40%, along with no experience egg or Illuminas in the Coliseum, so an easy way to get a high tier item would be to take your starting 50,000 GP over to the auction house to knock out that 3rd unlock objective. We started with Slot Celeste and Magitech Health Fancy Gal. It's too bad we didn't have the upgrade objective at the factory this flag set with these starting characters. The auction house had a Minerva as the $20,000 reward slot and a Red Cap at the $10,000 reward slot, which isn't a bad haul for 80k if you also buy the 50k item. A Magic Power +1 bonus on the Ifrit Esper from the South Figaro prisoner spot gave us a huge stat boost throughout most of the game, and experience eggs in the relic shop of World of Balance Zen helped out runners with getting a level advantage. If you stumbled into World of Balance Moblins looking for dried meat, you found the Luminas for sale. Umara was hungry on the Veldt, where Rage Rings were conveniently in the shop at World of Balance Nikea after the Serpent Trench to go with the Minerva, and a looted red jacket for Merton protection later on in the seed. If you followed that Sasquatch, the next character was Sketch Terra at the Yeti Cave, which gave us 5 new checks. However, after exhausting all of our options, including Magimaster at the Leet River for an Esper, the option of the Welk spot, and continuing on to our 5th character, X-Magic Shadow at the Narsh battle, was the path through the seed. If that wasn't painful enough, not doing the floating content immediately where Mog was at the end would also punish you worse. Since you were already at the top of Norse for Shadow, our last character throw, Cyan, being at Lone Wolf, was a bit of an annoyance to walk all the way back up there again. This meant Magitech Factory, although 3 Espers, included a spicy chicken at the end of the minecart ride, and those other non-peekable checks, although helpful, would not progress the seed forward to get your character requirements. Some runners found Valiant Knight for Celeste, some grabbed that Dragon Horn from the Lone Wolf mines, only to find another one behind where Lone Wolf was standing to give to Shadow or Mog, Boots, Horn, Pearl Lance, and others swapped in Cyan at the very end to throw, but most were using magic with Merton Axis and other level 3 elemental spells, which made tier 3 of Kefka a bit slow if you didn't have any physical offense. Besides Rexol and Inferno, bosses in Kefka's Tower were a joke: Tunnel Armor, Leader, Marshall, and Kefka at Narsh. The top 6 average for the Empire of 123.22 bested that of the returners as 128.15, so at least they controlled as many territories at the end of the week as they started in the west. Meanwhile, in the east, Triangle Island was the only remaining neutral battlefield with a standard Kefka unlock and KT skip at 21 checks, so areas with multiple rewards including Dragons, Fanatic's Tower, and even Kefka Tower Atma spot would help get you towards that skip. There were a ton of character-based rewards for recruitment, although the characters themselves would not necessarily have their standard vanilla commands, with random unique aside from Morph, Health, Possess, and Shock not being available. The other interesting wrinkles in the flag set include a slightly higher XP multiplier, along with a mirror match party highest setting for the enemies with a max scale of 50. Ultima being available at 254 MP, and equipment and relics could be used by any character. Coliseum also had 120 visible rewards, and the no free characters in Esper's flag was on, so there was no reason not to get those high tier items towards your Kefka Tower skip. Since we started with Capture Natural Magic Cyan, rewarding all 8 sword techs, Blitz Setzer with Auto Life 3, and Runic Celeste granting us 27 magic spells, including Ultima, all level 2 elemental spells, Fire 3, Doom, and Mute, we were pretty set off the start, not worrying too much about Esper spells, just getting enough MP to cast those spells. A Ragnarok Sword at the Kolonjin Inn and Fixed Dice at the South Figaro prisoner spot were our straightaway free high tier items, which is great for an early game offense. Those that went out for more looting at the Mount Zozo Cliff were rewarded with an Experience Egg, and the Skull Dragon was easily defeated by Fire 3 and Fixed Dice for yet another set of Fixed Dice before grabbing a shiny stone at the end. A Vanilla Doom Gaze wasn't even a problem with level 5 Doom to open because the Auto Life 3 status, thank you Setzer. His other check, Daryl's Tomb, netted a Katana Soul monster in a box for the offering. After a rude Doom followed by Magimaster making the check known as Cyan's Nightmare for this particular seed, our other options besides Celeste's checks were exhausted for our 4th character. Those that went through the Magitech Factory got all of their Espers for Go Mode prior to nabbing Sketch Shadow at the end for Auto Dog Block, while those that went to the Opera House Disruption got Mog, who unlocked all of the dances but more importantly had the Sword Tech command to take advantage of Cyan's objective. Unfortunately, Mog's checks did not result in a character, so it was a required full clear of Magitech, and then, after a Valiant Knife at Gao Manor, it was either Sabin at Veldt Cave to learn all blitzes, or Rage Terra giving the Magitech upgrade at the end of the floating continent. Zozo Tower gave out Golem for Calmness protection that wasn't needed because of Auto Life 3, and the kids did not want us to take Strago away, who allowed us access to all 24 lures at Moblins. Even though there were rude bosses all throughout the seed, the worst one was a French Vanilla Poltergeist in Kefka's Tower that caused issues, even with all the massive firepower we had. After getting past that hurdle, Final Kefka didn't cause many problems, with Cyan using a big sword or two, Celeste with Ultima and a gold hairpin, a Valiant Knife on Shadow, or Setzer using fixed dice with that offering, or fully sword decked out Mog. The returners took control of this space with the time just a hair over 70 minutes, with 6 of the top 8 times, while the Empire clocked in at 1:16:15. And finally, war has been brought to the shores of the Empire with the Eastern flag set consisting of an old school 7 characters 10 Espers Kefka unlock with a skip available at 3 extra glowing stones. Completing the Magitech factory check, if we found Celeste, would net the Magitech command upgrade. A high tier item would come from defeating a sealed gate cave ninja if we found Terra, and buying into Zen Thief would result in a full party heal, which is nice considering there are no healing or white magic spells that could be learned in this seed. This meant holding on to healing items, using Esper summons multiple times like Phoenix, Starlet, and Seraphim at a higher cost, using character abilities that had healing like Heal Beam, Mantra, Dances, and Pearl Wind, and if all else fails, just hit your own teammates with spells that have on elemental shields. We did start with only 2 characters, but we did get 1 Esper off the rip, which also meant 1 more dead check in the world. Only Possessed was off the table for commands, and enemy scaling was slightly higher than normal, similar to the Jidor flag set. Funbaba 3 was shuffled into the boss pool, so we might blow your characters back to the airship at an inopportune time. Chests got a buff, shops with a slight nerf, and no Illuminas in the shops or Coliseum, with the auction house empty of Espers as well. We started with Lore Shadow, already knowing Quasar and Pearlwind, along with Sketch Lock, who gave us early access to Calmless Protection at the Nar's Weapon Shop in Fenrir, and a 10 battle Curse Shield. Dancing Samurai Cyan with Landslide was at Gao Manor, and there were plenty of Genji armor in the loot table, 4 of them, as well as a gold hairpin to start casting those lures earlier after a few grind fights, including a sketch of Mad Oscar in the South Figaro Cave to learn Sourmouth for Shadow. However, lurking just beyond the healing pond was Poltergeist, with the runners that made it over that early hurdle getting a Palador Esper with Magic Power +1 to go with that starting Esper having a Magic Power +2 bonus. Jump Edgar, who could use both the Aura Lance and Dragonhorn rewards along the way, was in Cyan's dream. Control Celeste was at Doma Siege, along with the Funbaba that removed your party members, so no worries about it being in Kefka's Tower. Both the Shiva Esper at Mount Zozo and Shote at the Velt Cave was an important one in teaching Berserk that was useful to learn before heading to the floating continent early, like some runners in the seed where Guardian preceded Magimaster, so they had to nope out at that point before finishing the first check where Runic Natural Magic Realm awaited. We also had a Moogle at the end of the 3-part check to finish our character requirements. If you avoided Gao Manor and went to the floating continent earlier, you could have gotten Gogo from Esper Mountain, then Sabin inside of Zone Eater, and lastly Terra at the Phantom Train for a completely different group. In addition, going through both the Magitech factory yielding 2 dead checks, as did Edgar's loop of the engine room in Ancient Castle, but at least no goddesses at the end of the minecart ride. You did get an experience egg down there, however, so there are various pitfalls for our runners. An Inferno at the goddess spot in Kefka's Tower also rounded out the really bad boss placement for our seed. Other than the aforementioned Edgar setup, most parties are just casting magic of the non-healing kind, except for Pearlwind, thank you very much, in the final battle, with the returners being able to flip the Eastern Empire to neutral with their top 11 times counting at 131-29 to the Empire's 138-18 from their top 9. There were 6 additional skirmishes that broke out across 3 different areas, with Jidor being left alone, and returners taking a 4-2 advantage this week to bring their total war score to 525 against the Empire's 389. Let's have a look at the new map where the Eastern Empire has turned to neutral and the returners have gained control of Triangle Island in the east. The Empire also lost Zozo back to neutral in the west, but got an important area on that side with Jidor to keep the possibility of an attack in the returner base for week 5 alive. Both the Eastern Empire, this time with the top 12 returner times including the average, and Jidor, controlled by the Empire in the west, are back at it again in week 4. The other 2 locations are a repeat from the second week, with the Doma area controlled by the returners. It's in play this time with the permadeath setting, 0% escapable encounters, and lots of vanilla options, and a new territory in the west with Kolingen that is a Kefka unlock requiring you to head into the Phoenix Cave like Locke for Rachel and defeat the dragon inside, and an auto overcast status, meaning your party will turn into zombies when wounded. This will make this one interesting, as well as the 100% random chests and the always steal setting. If the Empire Empire can keep Jidor and grab Kullingen, they could finally infiltrate the Returner stronghold in the north, but the Returners have an opportunity to have a shot at the heart of the Empire vector if they could win for a second time in the Eastern Empire District. This is getting incredibly exciting. I can't wait to see what happens next. I've been TheShwantz27. Until next time.